sure.
Woo!
What is going on, everybody?
Woo-hoo
Welcome
is
to another rendition of hashtag Let's Talk About Something Else. As always, I am Jan Almasy, and with me are my two partners in crime, Miss Kathy and Tracey.
Hello.
How's it going, y'all?
Excellent.
Hello.
So, Kathy, before we continue rolling, go ahead and make sure that like all the other applications on your computer are X'd out except for StreamYard. You're still looking a little bit choppy. I want to make sure that like
Okay. How do you
Zoom
know I
is
have
not
like
trying to-
18 things open?
just a
Maybe that's why
Sneaking-
things were so bad in the.
sneaking
Our former
suspicion.
Is that
Oh.
better?
Yeah, it's already getting smoother. Look at that. All right, so I was going to make this announcement before we hopped on the live.
Well,
but I
cheers,
figured I'd
everyone.
bring everybody else in. Cheers.
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 All right.
Cheers.
But so there's this girl named Abigail Barlow, right? And she is like an up and coming artist. She's actually, I found out about her because of TikTok. She's huge on TikTok. She has like 3 or 4 of her songs that everybody is just blowing out of the water. Phenomenal vocalist. Absolutely amazing. She's 19 years old and just has crazy vocal control, like Christina Aguilera level vocal control. And she just emailed me back after I reached out to her on TikTok and said she's down for a podcast episode. So
awesome.
We are going to be having a podcast episode with the Abigail Barlow coming up here soon. So yay. That's an
That'll
exciting
be
end of my
fun.
day. Yeah. All right. I'm just going to pull up my watch party here so that I can harass everybody on Facebook and invite them to come hang out with
Well,
us.
I just closed out all my applications. There went my watch party.
Ooh.
I don't know if my watch
Yeah.
You're so clear. You're so clear now.
Oh,
And I
watch
can
party's
understand
happening.
what you're
dude.
saying.
Watch party is happening.
Boom. All right. I just started mine. Well, what is
Okay.
this week's topic? Travel? Yeah. Let's talk
We're
travel.
traveling.
Let's
I'm coming back
talk.
in just a
Oh,
minute.
we're
I'm
not
doing-
traveling, technically.
Boom. Let's talk.
Well, I'm in my mind. I'm not bounded by my geographical place. How do I make this into a watch party?
You got to click share, and then it should be
There
under
we go.
more
Gotcha.
options or watch party.
Click share.
Ah,
Do you know on my iPad I don't see share?
I don't know if you can do a watch party on.
I did last year or last week, whatever.
On your iPad?
How many more?
No, I'm on my laptop right now.
No.
Wait, maybe it's up here.
What is
My
going
lap-
on, Kat
my laptop.
Rodriguez? Welcome to the
Anyway,
Welcome.
let's talk about something else.
and
I'm
Devin
just gonna
Kohler. What is up, my dude?
go for it. We have any friends with us?
We've got it looks like 7 that popped in so far, and then I've got 3 in my watch party, so we're double digits. Oh, we got 8. Oh, hey, if you guys pop in, make sure you say hello. Oh, there's Facebook user says hello. Unfortunately, I can't see who you are, so I'm just gonna wave back. Hello.
Hi.
All right, I'm gonna go through and invite a bunch of people on here because they always know that when I go live, they're gonna get a harassing message inviting them to come hang out.
Well, if any of my people joined your link, they'll have to let you know because I can't figure out how to do it from my iPad. So
We did it last
Yeah.
week, but anyway, here we
So,
are.
If you guys want to say hi to Tracey, make sure you type it into the comments and say that you're one of
Yes.
Tracey's friends so that she knows that she's loved.
Yes, I'd like to know.
Hey, I want to know I'm loved too. I'm just saying.
Me 3. All right,
I
Kathy.
have a very fragile ego, you guys.
Yeah,
You got to show me some love.
we've been showing you some love once a week for the last couple of weeks, my friend. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, why don't we give the woman that came up with all of these shenanigans the privilege of starting us off this week with our questions of the week?
It's one of my favorite subjects, travel. You know, I was thinking this morning, I got my first passport 11 years ago. I was talking to 2 of my girlfriends from college and actually, or 3 of my girlfriends from college. And shenanigans was part of our vocabulary back then. And we decided we were going to go to Mexico
Ooh.
and,
Drink margaritas?
Well, yeah, whatever. We went to Mexico. That was the first time I left the US, aside from going to Canada, which I realize is a foreign country. And right now that has never been more in focus with me than ever. But I'd not been anywhere besides Canada before then.
Where did you go in
I
Mexico?
got on a plane and went to Mexico with my girlfriends, and that was the beginning of my travel adventures.
Where did you go in Mexico?
We were in Riviera Maya.
Ooh.
And if you can imagine four middle-aged ladies who have a past together going to Mexico.
Could it be like a female version of the Hangover movies?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that I can tell you the phrase, what happens here stays here, was like our mantra.
Beautiful. Holy crap.
Yeah, I have photos, but we had a marvelous time, and we did it again the next year. And then I was gifted by my wonderful uncle with the opportunity to travel all over the world. And as of now, I've been to at least 28 countries since then, including China, Russia, and Poland.
Yep, she's been around.
I've been around. So yeah. So anyway, travel is one of my favorite things. It's been the most soul-stirring and eye-opening and amazing adventure for me the last 10 years. And I can't wait to get back on a plane. And I have 2 more trips planned. Oh, please, God, COVID, do not take my trips away from me.
Man. Well, I 110% agree. I always tell people that like one of the big things that I'm thankful for. Oh, it looks like the Facebook user that said hi is Corey. She comes and hangs out like every week. She sent me a Snapchat of the last time that we were up here, and she had her glass of wine right next to her homework and then her computer. I was like, nice. Perfect combo. Nice. I always tell people that like one of the big reasons why I think that there's prejudice in the world is because there's a lack of like the ability to travel. You know, it's expensive. People have fear of flying. And yeah,
fear.
You're thinking in your head,
fear.
And that's a lot of it, right? It's just like
fear of the unknown, fear of people you don't know.
Or like
that relates directly to our bonus.
And other stuff like that. And it's like, man, just the ability to relate to other people, other cultures, and not just read about them to relate to them, but to actually be there and see it, live it, taste it, you know, is just a completely different ball game. So,
and you can get a good taste of that simply in the United States if you move to a major city. My time out in the heart of the Silicon Valley, we were out there for 7-8 years. I had neighbors from everywhere in the world you could think of in my complex, and it was a learning experience, things I had never been exposed to, and it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, some people might argue that some of our major cities are like a country unto themselves.
I actually noticed, I was thinking about that. The last time I was in Slovakia was this past September, and I was thinking about like when you're in Slovakia, like you eat Slovak food. Like there's not like Mexican restaurants in Slovakia. You know what I mean?
Well, I ate in a really good Italian restaurant in Prague.
Yeah, and there is some of like the Italian stuff and some of like, but like as far as like Asian food or Mexican food or any of the other like the stuff that we wouldn't even think of in the US because we can just go to like El Rincon, or we can go to Sahara Grill, or we can go to like, if I want any type of cultural food, I can pretty much find it here. But like in Slovakia, it's like all halushki, and I'm gonna smash these pierogi. I didn't have time to heat them up before the live stream, unfortunately. But
well, had you ordered them hot, they would have been fried for you. Yeah. Nice.
Kathy hooked me up with some pierogi that I'm gonna eat after this. But I was like, oh man, that's something that I realized that I missed about being in the US, was like the ability to sample all of these different types of food. And then people think like, oh, this is true X, Y, or Z insert culture here food. And then you get there and you're like, wow, this is a totally different ball game.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I've eaten Chinese food in China. And yeah, it's a whole different ball game. Now, we were on a tour where they did cater to Americans and Canadians particularly. So a lot of the food we were served day to day, it was Chinese food. But my sister-in-law, who travels with us, and I like to go a little bit off the grid and go find other things. I have to admit that when we went into some of the marketplaces, first of all, I have a whole new understanding of how COVID could have spread. Because as interesting as it was, I mean, we ate with only our eyes because neither of us felt particularly safe with our American sensibilities to eat a lot of the food that we saw.
Yeah.
Right.
They were pretty much slaughtering it and cooking it right in front of us, or, you know, it was just out in the open air with flies and things going on. And it was stinky and fascinating and beautiful and ugly all at the same time.
Jeez. I'm going to interject real quick and say, Ahoj, David. Mám rád, že si tu a že svoje vlasy vyzerajú také dlho, ne? Kde bývaš teraz? Bývaš v Košiciach, či nie? So my cousin David from Slovakia is on.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hi, David.
Says what's up. Perfect for the travel episode, right?
That's perfect.
And I basically told him that his hair is super long and he looks like Jesus. And then I asked him where he lives now, if he still lives in Košice or not. Yep, he does still live in Košice. That's cool. That's cool that we have somebody from Slovakia watching.
It is.
So we'll just go ahead and dive in here. What is our first question here, Kathy?
Let's see. What is the furthest you've actually traveled? Tracey.
We like rock, paper, scissors for it, or are we gonna just pass it off to Tracey? Oh, all right, ready?
What's your furthest?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, I don't know. We'll do rock, paper, scissors for the next question.
Okay.
All right, that works for me.
Grand Cayman Islands?
Okay.
What was that like? I've heard a lot about that, but I've never been.
Oh, beautiful.
This was our honeymoon. Mexico, Ocho Rio, Jamaica, and the Grand Cayman Islands. Grand Cayman was my favorite.
I'm gonna just take notes and start adding things to the bucket list.
Bucket list is awesome.
Was there a specific place that you went to in the Grand Cayman Islands that I can list inside of said bucket list?
I've been married over a long time. I can't remember. The beaches were gorgeous though, and the water was gorgeous.
We've never seen such a shade of blue.
I thought you were about to splatter the screen there, Kathy.
Most of my trips were to Myrtle Beach. So when you go someplace with such crystal clear water, but that's not my favorite place I've been, but that's my second favorite.
So what's your favorite, Tracey?
Oh, the beaches in Hawaii, Maui, Oahu.
Nice. So that's still U.S., but it almost probably feels like a foreign country over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's just beautiful.
It's people underestimate like the cultural differences between like even like you talk about the lower 48, right? Even the difference between the lower 48 and Alaska is a completely different ballgame.
Alaska is totally on my bucket list.
Oh, it is beautiful.
And the West, oh my gosh, I've not been to the West. So I've been all around the world, but I've not been out West.
Yeah.
Never been to California or
loved living in California. It's a whole different mindset. Well, at least Northern California. So what about you guys? It's
gorgeous. How about you, Jan? I know Slovakia, where you have family.
Yeah. I don't really know if I've been any further, quote unquote, than Slovakia. I guess like if I were to combine it into something as far as distance traveled, it'd probably be when we flew into Pisa. Well, technically we flew into Rome and then we took a train to Pisa to visit my uncle. Because he had just moved from the Vatican to Pisa to take over a parish. And so we spent a little bit of time with him in his new parish and got to explore Pisa.
Nice.
And, I have my awkward, fat 13-year-old picture standing in front of the Leaning Tower. But we actually drove from Pisa through the Alps to Slovakia.
Wow.
And I'll never forget the drive because it was me, my little brother, and my little sister packed in the back seat of this vehicle with luggage and everything else. I mean, it was like, I don't know, a dozen hours at least.
Mhm.
And I was not tall, but I was wide at that point in time. And it was one of the most uncomfortable car rides I think I've ever experienced. But that was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen too.
Mm.
Outside of when I was on a C-130 flying to Alaska, looking out of the bay doors and seeing
Wow.
the top of the Rockies,
Mm.
that was gorgeous.
That would have been gorgeous.
But that mountain range is just beautiful. Driving up north headed towards Slovakia, 110%, probably one of the more vivid memories that I have from that age range.
Mhm.
Was looking out and seeing all of the snow-capped peaks. And I
I
mean,
have
you're
to share a photo.
back and
Let's see,
forth.
I don't know if you can even see it. Oop.
Nope.
Oh,
That
wow.
Beautiful.
is Greenland. That was actually out a plane window.
That's beautiful.
That is
And
beautiful.
in person, I mean, I was it took my breath away to see that. And I just happened to look out for the few moments that I could see it. So that's my visit to Greenland. It was from however many feet up I was.
I'd like to say what's up to Shay and Craig.
Hey, Shay and Craig.
Craig is an ICU nurse that works with me at the hospital. And
nice.
Shay is a tech. She's in nursing school right now. So
let's ask our audience where they've been.
Yeah, if you guys want to submit, I know David, you've been to a couple of interesting places, my friend. Yeah, let us know what are some of the furthest places that you've ever traveled to. I'm curious to see what you guys would put through as Kathy kind of explains her shenanigans.
Well, my furthest place is I went to China 2 years ago. I was actually in Wuhan, and I understand how diseases could spread so quickly. People are absolutely packed. And if nothing else, that trip really drove home how different and how alike we all are. And that again relates to our mystery question. But I saw things I never dreamed in my lifetime I would see, things I had seen in history books and textbooks and library books. To stand in front of the Terracotta Army and to stand on the Great Wall and see some of the things I saw over there, it was so awe-inspiring. But then to meet the people and realize they are so much like us. They live under a different economic system. They live under a different political system. They have not the freedom that we have, yet all they want to do is what we want to do. We just want to take care of our families and live our lives as best we can.
And be safe.
Yep. Amen.
Yes.
And so we had an amazing guide over there, and he actually studied American English. So he sounded like he was from the Midwest, honestly. He had zero Chinese accent. He was a Chinese person from Shanghai. And he was phenomenal, but it was interesting how guarded his words were and when he would speak freely and when he wouldn't. So that was my farthest trip. It wasn't my favorite spot, although I'll never forget a moment of that trip.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and putting yourself, like we talked about earlier, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone and traveling and stuff like that is something that I'll advocate for. You know, unless putting yourself out of your comfort zone puts you in danger, that's a different ballpark.
Men with guns in Frankfurt. Yes. Scary as hell.
Yeah. Like don't be crossing over like,
oh no. You just comply.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got to do what you got to do. But like when it comes to going off of the beaten like tourism path, I know that one thing that like when I traveled with my military unit to Italy, I had been to Italy 4 or 5 times. So I kind of knew, you know, how to interact at the train ticket. You know, how do I speak Italian to buy a train ticket? What is the etiquette at a restaurant? You know, some of those little things. But then also I knew Rome like the back of my hand because I had been there so many times that, you know, I was like, okay, we don't actually need to go see this. This monument is cool, but you know, we're not going to go look at Circus Maximus because it's just a gravel pit with a field. Like, let's go focus on going and look at this instead. And they were all super thankful for that, going off of that beaten tourism path,
Yeah.
because it was not cookie cutter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, we only had a limited amount of time to go see things, and it was something that we were able to kind of throw together to actually hit all of the major monuments and everything else like that. So
It's cool to see what people consider tourist traps, to see them in person. For example, where every Olympics for time eternal, since the Olympics were created, I actually stood where the flame is lit every 4 years or every 2 years now. It's nothing to be impressed by. It's very small. But, you know, I've seen it on TV and it's very much bigger. So getting a perspective. But as I was walking down the hall that where the gladiators used to walk onto the Olympic fields, I could almost viscerally feel
The energy.
every one of them. And it was unbelievably emotional for me.
Banff. What is Banff?
So we've kind of drifted into question 2, and our party people are not answering many questions. Have any of you traveled?
It looks
Talk to
like
us.
Devin said that Banff in Alberta, Canada is beautiful.
Mm.
I'm going to I can share my screen on here. I'm going to go ahead and show people a picture of this because this actually looks absolutely gorgeous.
Well, Canada is such a lovely country.
It
And I
is.
think we sometimes forget that it's a foreign country, but it feels like the United States many times when you go in there. But my son drove up to get his girlfriend. I can't share all the details because there's still stuff involved, but you know, he was turned away at the border and sent home. And he called that morning to see if he could go up into Canada to get her. And she lives in Hamilton. And he got all the way up there, 5-hour drive, and was turned back. And this was at the very beginning of the COVID.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think somebody has been to Prague, which is one of my very favorite cities in the world.
They've got cool clocks in Prague.
They have cool everything.
Yeah.
Of all the places I've
I
visited, that's one place I really want to go back to.
But have you been to the Slovak Republic?
I think I have been to Slovak Republic.
I'm going to
Just
give a little bit of a
just a little
plug
bit.
to that side of the,
Oh,
of the split.
wow.
So there's
That
Lake
is
Banff right there.
Uh,
I'll scroll through a couple of these. That water looks absolutely amazing, Devin.
It does.
Wow, that is
Beautiful.
And that it looks like it's one of those places that's just kind of like gently tucked away.
mhm.
You know, that's not like
Wow.
super populated. I'll go ahead and exit out of that now. But that is, yeah, that is gorgeous.
There are sites that will just take your breath away over there, but I'm sure those sites are in the United States as well.
They
What
are.
do I
They're
do?
everywhere.
There we go.
People
I mean,
come here to tour too.
You stop at a giant sequoia tree in the redwood forest, and you're just in awe of how magnificent they are, or how magnificent Half Dome is in Yosemite.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one of my favorite trips. What is the second question? Are we talking about the second question?
Oh, we're
right
sort
now?
of drifting. This is what happens on Cinco de Mayo when we start having drinks involved.
I definitely after our we'll say I just started off the evening with a shot, and then I'm drinking my margarita. So
Just
it is
drinking
margarita
Georgia.
night. So our 3 questions, just to backpedal, is where's the furthest you've ever traveled? What is the most memorable things? What is one of the most memorable things you've seen on your travels? And where have you not gone that you really want to, and why? And then our bonus question, we might as well, because we've touched it, is what is something that you've learned in those travels? And then I wrote, of course, this is going to dissolve into food too. So because that's us. But really, there's so much about travel that is so it just expands your soul.
Yeah,
It does. Absolutely.
Devin says that Lake Banff has a natural spring and it's always hot, and that it's super awesome in the wintertime. So
Nice.
I think, Devin, you just officially landed that on my bucket list, dude. I am
Yeah.
that
Mine
that
too.
sounds amazing. But so I was gonna make this little plug for the US thing. I think that
Mhm.
people underestimate how many amazing things there are in the US. They constantly think, "Oh, I have to go out of the country to really experience stuff." I'm like, one of my
Not
favorite
at all.
vacations was my junior year of high school. I had
Mhm.
like just gotten my license. We drove from Ohio to Sandpoint, Idaho, and back.
Mhm.
And on the way there, we went up north. We went, Wisconsin, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, up that way. And then on the way back, we took a more like middle of the country route.
Mhm.
But I mean, on that trip alone, I got to see the Black Hills. I got to see the Badlands.
Mm,
I got to see Mount Rushmore. I got to see Crazy Horse. I got to see Yosemite. I got to see like
mm.
Yellowstone.
That's
All of
my
these
bucket list.
It was amazing. Now, did we wanna murder each other by the end of that 96-hour total
Back
drive time?
back
Yep.
back seat of the car. I'm sure we all have stories of
Oh, my lord.
being squashed in with your brothers and sisters in the back seat of a
Yeah.
car and, yeah, feet going where they don't need to be going
Yep,
and
and that was an era before, iPods were a big thing, and
oh, yeah.
there was no putting headphones in and trying to ignore each other. It was
Or a
Nope,
lot of cars that had
yeah,
air
nope.
conditioning.
yeah. So, alright, well, I think that we're good to move on to number 2, numero dos,
Numero dos.
which is the
What is one of the
favorite
most
thing.
memorable things you've seen in your travels?
Alright. I'll start
Oh,
this one off.
Go ahead, Jan.
yep.
Um, so uh on that trip out west, one of the things that I didn't get to go see was the Grand Canyon.
Mm,
And this, well, oh man, it's been a while now. Holy cow. It's been probably 4 years or so since I went out to Las Vegas. And we went out for my friend's 30th birthday party. And she was in the military with me. She had like a friend that was a surgeon because she worked at the hospital that had a penthouse out there. So we all just pitched in to rent this penthouse. But I
Nice.
went out 2 days early because I was like, if I'm going to go out there, I might as well go out and see the Grand Canyon because I looked it up and it was only like a 2-hour drive. So I got
mhm,
out there 2 days early. I rented a car from whatever rental agency was there, and I just drove out. And it was like I didn't have the radio on the entire drive. I was just driving through the mountains in Nevada. And when I got to the Grand Canyon, I did kind of the touristy walks and everything like that, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a place where there's not a whole lot of people and try to see how far out I can get onto these cliff faces. Um, and so I found like, the do not pass this sign and then continued to go past the do not pass this sign and
This
was
does
trying
not sound good.
a place to sit. And so I ended up finding this rock face that was like, um, there's pictures of it on my Instagram. I'll have to post it with this at some point, but it's like it was almost like a seat kind of nestled in between these two ridges, right? And I dropped down and like jumped down onto this little platform and I just sat there and it was like, I mean, little ledge straight down. And so I'm sitting there with my feet hanging out over the edge and I'm just looking at everything and taking it all in. And I prayed the rosary when I was sitting there and I cried because I was like, so I felt so small, right? And I just like
mhm,
realized how much
Magnificent.
just absolutely amazing the creation is, like the world that is around us, right? And I'm like praying and I'm kind of getting into this meditative state and then I just like bawl my eyes out at on the in the Grand Canyon. And it was the closest I think I've ever felt to God ever sitting there. But then also one of
Mm.
my most memorable experiences just because I had always wanted to go to the Grand Canyon. I had always heard that it was life changing seeing it, and I never really understood how a giant, pit in the ground can be so
mhm,
life changing. But then as I started to process it, it was like it took a body of water millions of years to do this and to
mhm.
create this amazing valley and to see all of the different colors of stone throughout the years and to realize that it was, from like the beginning of time. It was just awesome. A great, amazing experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is most definitely my top one for sure.
Oh, Well, I have to say most of my favorite things are natural wonders, and just in the moments I'm traveling that I get caught up and realize, first of all, how fortunate I am to be there in a different country or a different place. Um, though China wasn't my favorite trip, it was probably the most awe-inspiring because, for one thing, it's a communist country. We never believed that we would be in my generation that we would actually stand in a communist country. I felt that way when I was in St. Petersburg and in Gdansk, Poland, which was amazing. Actually, Gdansk was probably one of the most life-changing spots I ever went because they had reconstructed the main part of a square, but one block out, it was still bombed out. There's still bombed out buildings everywhere. And as our guide told us, we were just on the wrong side of the wall for the Marshall Plan, which is something we all study in high school or history or something. But they had a lot of photos of what I was seeing as this beautiful reconstructed square, what it looked like during World War II after it had been bombed out completely. And some of the things that I saw that just dropped a lot of reality on me, you know, seeing the Soviet bloc buildings, seeing bombed out buildings, and thinking about the people that lived through that. And, you know, us being grounded for 2 months, you know, it's nothing compared to what they went to. So it was truly life changing. But being in China, where it is still highly controlled, where I had no access to internet because it was illegal. It's illegal in China. And watching my guide struggle to answer our American questions because he's not allowed to say certain things. And when he would answer us quietly, maybe, and tell us the truth once in a while. But to stand on the shoulders of people, the Great Wall, it took thousands of years to build and thousands upon thousands of workers who died in the process. And to stand there and feel them all before you, and to stand where millions of people have walked, it's just, oh,
your inner empath is showing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, no, I feel that 110%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I felt it down in Texas. I was down in Texas in one of the old missions, and it was ancient for United States standards. I think it was 800 years old, one of the old Spanish missions. And the church still has services or masses, and to walk in there and feel those people ahead of us too. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you have big shoes to fill there, Tracey. Jeez.
Yeah, and I can't compare to that at all.
Well,
but
you have spots that you feel it too.
Well, Gettysburg would have been one of those spots when you're
Absolutely.
in there. The magnitude in when you do the visualization of it, it's your mind doesn't almost take it in. But you have to really, for me, I connect with the people that went through the struggle in a way that you can feel the love they have for their country, the love they have for each other. And then the situations where brother against brother, these scenarios play out all through life in many different forms. But I think that was really in-depth thinking for that when I was there. But what I really got a kick out of was when I was in Oahu, and this was years ago, 25 years ago, we went to an actual luau. And I think what was so fascinating to me was, they gave you a glimpse of how they lived, how they worked together, how they celebrated, and how they would feast. And it was just fascinating that a community would come together to make things happen, to survive, to live, to help one another out.
But they could throw a party out there. I'll tell you. Let's lighten this up. It's Cinco de Mayo, for God's sake.
But I love the luau, to go out and catching the food and getting what you need and climbing the trees and the dances and the interpretations of what the dances meant. I mean, that was really cool.
Yeah. No, there's I think one of the if we're switching it to like that the positive side of the house, I think that probably one of my favorite just like it something when I was a little kid, I was always fascinated with like medieval stuff, right? And there's a castle in Slovakia called Shhhhh, which is um basically just like the Great Castle. I mean, it's one of the largest ones in Eastern Europe. And my cousin happens to be the bishop in that region. And so we would go up to the top of this mountain and walk around. And I remember being a little kid. I think I was like 9 years old or something like that. And there was this guy up there that that made handmade knives and had all this other kind of stuff. And I got to shoot a flintlock pistol. I shot a crossbow, and then I got a handmade knife from him that day. My grandpa bought.
Oh, wow.
And so I still have that handmade blade from that castle from back in the day. But that was like, for me, I was the kid that was walking around that castle in 80-degree heat with a plastic suit of armor on. I wanted to pretend.
I want to see pictures.
Yeah,
I'm sure that when you guys come over to hang out with my mom, that she'll be showing.
Oh, your mom! I'm bringing some proper drink to lubricate your mom's mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we have some Schlivo from back home that my grandpa made. So if you guys want to take a couple of shots of some real Schlivo beats.
Yeah, you may never get rid of us.
Yeah. I'm opening a door I can't shut.
You're not going to be able to look us in the eye again after we talk to Mama.
Yeah, no joke. No, I ain't got nothing to hide. But I don't know. She knows some things.
Yeah, mamas do.
All right, let's see.
So where do you want to go? Where have you not gone that you really want to go, and why? What do you want to see?
Well, I think now the Grand Cayman Islands and Lake Banff are on both of my list. But I won't cheat. We'll use a different one. Well, let's see here. So I've started one off.
I started one off.
Boop.
I went somewhere. I mean, I want to go to the Western United States, actually. But I really want to go to Italy. I watched Under the Tuscan Sun, which was a mediocre movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
Fell in love with the scenery and the culture that they showed. And I really want to do an Eat, Love, Pray adventure. I want to go to India, and I want to see. I want to see the whole world. Yeah. I want to see it all.
I love it.
I'm more into watching where my daughter goes. But if I would like us all to go to Ireland, if I had to pick one place that's really where
it's cold and rainy, but gorgeous, and lots of sheep, and it's not too bad. I had a blast in Ireland.
Well, there's probably a lot of Guinness and JMO.
I had the best tour guide there. They're very regulated in this tour line that we use with my uncle, and I think we got the good tour guide. She's on our bus, and we're driving to Dublin, and she goes, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled for a nice party stop, and if you can all wait an extra 30 minutes, I will take you to Dublin and show you the most fantastic bar, and they do have restrooms there, and you can use the loo." And so we all voted as a busload to go to Dublin and visit this bar. And she just made it so much fun.
Aww.
So
Ireland. My family is from different parts of there.
Yeah.
And
Scotland. Hey.
Scotland.
That's on my bucket list.
More sheep.
Lots of ferry over there too. Both places. Got to go commune with them.
Would love to do because I've done like bourbon tours and whiskey tours here, right? And so I mean, obviously people know that I collect whiskey at this point. If you've made it this far, and we're like 53 episodes deep into the Apex, if you've made it this far and you don't know that I drink whiskey, then you're not paying attention. But another thing is being able to go and do the Scottish Scotch tours and go to the different, like go to Islay and go to the different regions of the different types of Scotch
Oh,
that are
wow.
produced and do something amazing like that. So the two places, if I were gonna, I kind of gave away one, right? Scotland, specifically because of Scotch. But then the second one I've always been super, super fascinated with and really intrigued with is Machu Picchu.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my
Always.
husband
gosh.
too.
My lieutenant, well, he was my lieutenant for the first 2 years of my career in the military.
Mhm.
He went on a one of the like hikes and
Mhm.
spent 2 weeks in the mountains and then ended in Machu Picchu. And just did the entire mountain range. And he said that it was probably one of the worst experience of his life, but probably one of the best experiences of his life. He was like, "Would I go back and do it again? Hell no." He was like, "Am I glad I did it? Hell yeah." So I've had that on my bucket list ever since I was a little kid. I've always been fascinated with that culture and that time period, how advanced they were for their time. I think that that's something that we forget about with like these ancient civilizations is how far ahead of like the rest of the world they were
Mhm.
in places like the Aztecs or the Mayans or
Oh my gosh, when
I
I
mean,
went to Tulum, it was breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And they're
I've been there.
oh my gosh, I absolutely fell in love with Tulum.
All I can remember is it was hot,
It was hot.
very hot.
This guy was totally harassing an iguana, and my girlfriend's going, "Dude, it's gonna bite you." There
And
were
it-
iguanas everywhere, but Tulum was gorgeous. Jan, wait till you see the Caribbean blues. Oh my gosh. I went snorkeling down in Haiti, and I have never seen so many colors. And my description of the fish that I saw down there were it was like some toddler went crazy with their magic markers and glitter and colors. I mean, neon colored fish swimming around. And I remember coming up and talking to the guys at the snorkeling place, and they said, I said, "Wow, those fish were so cool." And you know, and they said, "Well, those were probably about 50, 60 feet below you, and they were about, you know, yay big." I'm like, "Oh." They looked like they were just out of reach, but the water was so clear and the colors were
beautiful.
so vivid. It was amazing. It was that was a pretty cool day. I saw monkeys in trees and parrots flying wild and colors I never knew existed in nature.
right. Right. I think, yeah, I'm definitely, the more that you guys are talking about this kind of stuff, I've never really had that region on my radar as far as bucket list items, but it's definitely slowly getting added to it.
You're still young, yeah.
You are. I wanted to go to Australia in my younger years too, when my husband worked.
That is where I'm going in January.
Oh, well, they better lift the ban.
Australia, New Zealand, and I pray they don't cancel my trip. My other trip is scheduled for Italy and Spain in October. I'm giving it a 50% right now. And that is a true bucket list trip for me. And I'm, you know, I'll get there.
Everyone that's watching, say some prayers for Kathy's trip. Get it.
I'll get there.
In there.
Yeah. Totally confident I will get there.
Oh, yeah. Well, and if not this go around, I'll definitely pull. We'll pull some strings, get you to Italy.
I'm kind of in love with Italy. Definitely. I was in Italy for an hour, and I was told by my husband that I was acting like a toddler, and my response was, "Yeah, but I'm acting like a toddler in Italy."
Oh, yeah.
Because I was running around like, I always talk about, if I don't know if you've watched The Nightmare Before Christmas, when Jack Skellington discovers Christmas Land, and he's running around and he's totally amazed at what he's seeing, and he's going, "What's this? What's this?" And that's how I was in Venice for 1 hour. 1 hour I had in Venice.
1 hour?
I took nearly 1,000 pictures in that hour.
Oh, I did love seeing all her pictures on.
Yeah, I bet. What Were you just like in the airport in Venice, or like
Oh,
were you at Marco Polo, or?
we landed in Venice. I mean, technically I was in Venice for probably 7 hours, but they took us to the ship that we were embarking, and I got on the last water taxi into the city and got to spend an hour running, literally running. And this girl does not run. I literally ran around with my camera taking pictures. My uncle was with me and he thought I'd lost my mind. And I just took it in as fast as I could. I was like a thirsty person who's just off the desert.
Right.
And I just could not take it in fast enough.
Were you able to go to like Piazza di San Marco or anything like that?
Yes, we were on the piazza. I saw some, I mean, I got to see everything really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, literally at a run. And the only thing is heading back on, like I said, this was the last water taxi, and then our ship was going to disembark. And so we had to get back on the water taxi and go back to the ship as the sun was going down. It was probably the most perfect sunset I've ever seen in my life. And we were coming down the Grand Canal and heading back to our ship, and it took my words away. The colors, I love color. So as you can see behind me, actually there, you can see it. Yeah. Everything's backwards. But my friend painted that for me. That was actually a sunset that I remember the conversation that night. She and I had gone camping together, and that we were sitting on a dock, and she photographed that and then painted it for me. Wow. So awesome. I'm a little freaky about sunsets. So.
They're peaceful.
The colors just.
There was a beautiful one the other day right here.
I know.
Yeah,
I missed
there
it.
was.
I missed it.
The kids actually took a picture of it. The teenagers.
Oh, everyone did. I was inside getting
gorgeous.
I was inside euchering my sons and making.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the sky was on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there'll be more.
You know, when you're that competitive at euchre, you make your choices.
Yeah, we killed them.
I'm still, once all of this is done, I'm still waiting on this competition to happen, because I feel like there's a high chance that you're gonna get dethroned.
I am a sleeper because I don't count cards like my husband does, and I don't sit there and go, okay, play your king, Jan. I'm not that person. I just play and we get results.
You're one of those intuitive players. You guys drive me crazy. That like the people that can just play off of intuition, they're just like, oh yeah, this is a good gut feel.
No, I can't.
I'm like,
no,
I'm like trying to predict cards.
I mean,
I'm on YouTube before.
And I have to say, I was made a whiskey convert. I have sworn all my years of my life on this, my adult life, that I don't like amber liquids. And my son poured some amber liquid in my glass, and it was life-changing on Sunday. I think he was trying to win the game, but too bad.
What type of amber liquid was it? Do you know?
It was, I can't remember. It was a bourbon. And I'm like, I do not like bourbon. As a flashback to college.
Oh yeah, we've been talking about this last time.
Yeah. We'll talk about college days some other time. But anyway, but he said, do you want to try just a sip of this? And I'm like, oh, what is this black magic? So it was some, I'll have to let you know. But
because I'm curious. Like I'm always interested in like what people offer, because generally if it's like, here, mom, take a sip of this type of thing, it's a good bottle. Like, especially if he's been drinking bourbon for a while, that's something that he's like proud of. And so I want to know, because I want to be proud of it as well.
It was better than Eagle Rare, he said.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. And Eagle Rare is Buffalo Trace's like flagship. Like,
he's got a bottle of that. And then he said he was gifted with this bottle. I can't remember what it was. It had a copper band around it, because I remember saying, can I have the label and make a really cool bracelet?
Basil Hayden?
Pardon?
Was it Basil Hayden? Does that sound right?
It might be.
Yeah, Basil Hayden comes with a copper band around it with like a seal on the front.
Yeah.
And then like a paper label.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Basil Hayden's is really good. A lot of people use Basil Hayden's to make old fashions.
Well, we just drank it straight up.
Yeah.
And he still got his butt whipped in euchre.
Yeah.
Nice try. Thank you for playing. Move on.
Ooh, man, I can feel the heat that's gonna end up happening when we actually have the family play euchre together. It's already playing out in my mind. It's gonna be ridiculous.
And that was after I schooled him on pierogi making, so you know.
Okay, so let's move in. Let's see here. We're getting close to our hour time slot here. So remind us of what our bonus question is, Kathy.
Well, it was really, what have you learned in your travels? What has traveling taught you? What lessons can you take away from it? And I think I've alluded to it about how people are people. We just want to do the best we can for ourselves and our family and make a life, whatever that life looks like. But I've also seen some people living in some pretty different conditions and still making an awesome life. I've been in Jamaica where poverty is rampant. And, you know, there's a lot of drugs and you run into people who are stoned out of their minds and it's a different culture. Right. But, you know, at the end of the day, they just want to make it through another day, just like we do.
I agree.
My take on it, everybody has a story. Everybody has something to offer you. No matter where you go, the human spirit is resilient and somebody has something to share, and it's always something you can take away. And sometimes you are the one who has something to share with them. That's what I love about meeting people from different places and everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Most interesting conversation was actually a guy in Jamaica, and he was stoned out of his mind and telling me about his life. And I'm just sitting there going, okay. And my friend is going, why are you talking to this guy? And I'm like, it's so interesting.
I feel like that definitely would be an interesting conversation. Because anytime anybody says the phrase stoned out of their mind or anything like that, the only scene from anything that I can picture is, hey man, am I driving okay? I think we're parked, man. Kills me every single time. Oh my god, I love that. Can I have your license and registration? Isn't that on the back bumper, man?
Oh my! That really well.
I can't believe you heard of Cheech and Chong, Jan.
I love.
Oh my god, no, that is amazing. I love that movie. Oh my lord, what is that? It's like 1978 or 79 or something.
Oh yeah, back in the dark ages when it was on vinyl.
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
I actually had that album at one time.
Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah,
a lot, right?
Wedding album
tucked in between your pet rocks.
Yeah,
exactly. Now hush. Watch it.
You're outnumbered, I had all kinds of fun things. Pet rocks were one of them.
I'll have to say that, like, one of my favorite experiences, and this is I don't know if I'm like cheating because I have family overseas and everything like that, but when I joined the military, I was 18, right? And it pretty much took away all of my ability to travel outside of traveling with the military. So like the Air Force blessed me with the ability. I went to Alaska, I went to Italy, I went all over the United States, with different trainings and everything like that. And it was amazing to get paid to go to these places, right? Like getting paid to spend a month in Italy was phenomenal.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. and so that's why I like knew about, the Piazza di San Marco and Marco Polo Airport. And Venice is beautiful. Definitely when you go back, we'll have to, if you want to do Italy, like we definitely need to talk offline and just line up some stuff that you can like ask your tour guide about and be like, hey, so this guy said that this restaurant's a better option. Maybe we should go here.
No, I'll be in Florence for 2 days, and my sister-in-law and I will go find some places.
Okay, I have connections in Florence that you need to check out for sure. Florence is probably one of my favorite cities in Italy. But that I was in the military for like 7 years, right? And so my mom and my sister, my brother, they had gotten the chance to go back to Slovakia 2 or 3 times over the course of that 7 years. And I always either was being sent on a training or even when my cousins came over to visit America, I was down in Tennessee at Sergeant Academy. So
Mhm.
it never seemed to line up well. And when let me see if I can find this picture and show it to you. But the first time that I touched down in Košice in like 7 years, I was just like awestruck at how familiar everything felt. It was like
Huh.
it was like I had never left,
Oh.
and like I remembered walking out of the airport exactly where the luggage bay would be. I remembered like where the parking lot was. I remembered the drive from
Wow.
the airport to the village that my grandparents live in, because they still live in the original house that my grandpa had built after World War II. And it's just this little, maybe 60 people in this village. And the church is right at the end. There's one little grocery store, but that moment walking up to the door and having my grandma and grandpa open the door to see me for the first
Wow.
time in like 7 years was
Oh.
just absolutely I if I were to try to put it into words, I wouldn't be able to explain it. I mean, it was just amazing. And then
I
by the
can't imagine.
and then by the end of that trip, it cracks me up because now my grandpa calls me his son, not his
Oh,
grandson, because the last time I was there, I was 13, and he didn't know when I was going to come back, so he wanted to have a beer with his grandson, and my mom like yelled at him because she
oh,
came downstairs and I was drinking a pint with my grandpa. And so like the first thing that we did when we got there is we went out onto the back porch and we sat on the back porch swing and cracked a shotties is a type of beer that they have over there. And we just
uh,
sat there and shot the shit for a little
that
Mm.
is
while
so
and caught
sweet.
up about everything. It was awesome. I'm trying to find this, scrolling up through my timeline to try to find this picture, but yeah, definitely that was probably my favorite experience.
Is your
Some
grandpa still here?
hmm Yeah, him and my grandma are. He's actually really,
They're
really
probably
healthy.
younger than me, Tracy.
He's
What's that?
he's actually
What's
doing really well for, I think he's turning 86 this
Okay,
year,
I'm
That's
not
awesome.
but
86.
he only takes like half of a tablet for um blood pressure, and then he has like some minor heart rate issues, but like he he was getting up on ladders and helping me trim trees. He still cuts down the like corn and
Wow.
stuff in the backyard with a scythe.
Wow.
Um,
He
and
got
he
him
basically
into
is
it.
like, yeah, the day that I get an automatic mower is the day that I become a pansy. I almost
Oh
said
my gosh.
whatever, but
I remember right down the street from me, old man Flume used to have a little cornfield. I think his family just kept it for him to keep busy. And I stopped down there to buy some corn, and the man didn't even say, I said, I need a dozen corn. And he had all these ones in front of him, and he pulls out this massive knife and pulls it out, and I'm hearing, you know, and he disappears into the cornfield. Oh my gosh, that's
Oh, look at
beautiful,
that. That is
yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful.
yeah, that was a good day for
Yeah.
sure. 2 weeks definitely wasn't enough, but it was definitely better than nothing over the last 7 years. So, all right, well,
Well, we're at almost an hour, and
yeah.
I thank everyone for joining us. I would love to travel the world with all of you, but I hope that soon we'll be able to go out and travel the world and see things and meet these people that we haven't met yet,
What up,
and
KP? I just wanted to say hi to
continue the conversation.
Kim Possible, aka Kelly Piero.
Impossible.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I call Kelly Piero Kim Possible.
Oh, I like Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah, Kelly's the bomb. Dude,
you-
I needed a graphic designer for one of the contracts that I'm working on right now. And I
Mhm.
texted Kelly. I was like, hey, I need a graphic designer. Do you got anybody? And she was like, how long do I have? And I was like, I need them within a couple of hours. It needs to be something a quick turnaround. Like
Mhm.
45 minutes later, I had a graphic designer. I was like, you
Awesome.
are the bomb.
Are you friends with all of my friends, Jan?
I don't know. I guess. I feel like we just we have very similar personality types. We're just, we could do the whole extroversion thing and we get excited to talk to people. But yeah, no, it is actually kind of odd how many times our crowds have like intercrossed and then we didn't know each other until this past year.
Yeah, you're just out there. It's all good.
Yeah. But
well, thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you, Jan, for always to Apex Communications for setting it up. And I hope to talk to all of you again soon. See us next Tuesday at 7 p.m., not a.m.
I was like, man, I can't be drinking margaritas at 7 a.m. We got to do this.
My glass is empty. Look at this.
All right. Well, it sounds like a perfect time to end the live stream and go get a refill.
Bye.
All right.
Good
Tracey,
night.
Thank you for joining us as always. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 7 p.m.